Welcome to this episode of the Sustainable Finance web series. During the course of 5 episodes, I will share some insights on several EU initiatives which intend to accelerate the transition towards a climate-neutral economy. Let's start with a quick recap of the previous episode, in which we talked about the EU Green Deal. This is the EU's flagship initiative. It is much more than reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It really aims at transforming the entire economy and society, with policy initiatives ranging from emissions trading to circular economy action plans, but also initiatives to finance this entire transition. It is truly about drastically changing the key systems that define the way we live, work, produce, and consume. Last but not least, it's a multi-level, multi-stakeholder effort, namely, we need all the actors on board and to follow through. But in the end, citizens, businesses, and civil society are crucial, as their behavior will support or not achieving the objective. In the second episode, we'll dive into the EU Sustainable Finance Package. But let's start from the beginning, because in the EU's policy context, sustainable finance is understood as finance which supports economic growth while reducing pressures on the ESG aspects. Sustainable finance also covers transparency when it comes to risks related to ESG factors that may have an impact on the financial system and the mitigation of such risks through the appropriate governance of financial and corporate actors. As with most topics in sustainability, this is continuously evolving, and by the time you see this webinar, it could be that a new legislative package has been released. But don't be worried, at the end of this web series, I will share sources which can be consulted. Let's start with a brief history. This all starts in March 2018, when the action plan was adopted by the EU Commission. More recently, in July 2020, the taxonomy regulation entered into force. It effectively created the world's first ever green list, a classification system for sustainable economic activities. In December of that same year, the Climate Benchmarks regulation came into effect. It increases transparency and the disclosure of sustainable information, making the comparison of different financial products easier. In March 2021, the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, SFDR, came into effect. SFDR aims to trigger changes in behavioral patterns and increasing transparency of sustainability in the financial institutions, thus the banks, investment firms, asset managers, and insurers, thus discouraging greenwashing while promoting responsible and sustainable investments. In other words, the EU SFDR is a set of rules aiming to make sustainability funds more comparable and understandable for investors. A new milestone was reached in April 2021, upon the release of a new legislative package which included a comprehensive set of measures with the intent to make the financial sector even more sustainable. First of all, 6 amending delegated acts, ensuring that financial firms include sustainability in their procedures and their investment advice towards clients. In other words, they amend the rules on fiduciary duty and clarify the obligations of a financial firm when assessing its sustainability risks, such as, for example, the impacts of floods on the value of investments. These updated rules on fiduciary duty are expected to apply at the end of 2022. For the non-financial experts listening today, fiduciary duty can be explained as the act of overseeing the wealth of clients while acting on the client's behalf and in their best interest. Also, the Taxonomy Climate Delegated Act, which classifies activities which best contribute to mitigating and adapting to the effects of climate change. Last but not least, the new Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or CSRD, which ensures companies provide consistent and comparable information. These last two will be the subject of future episodes as they deserve more attention. The EU Sustainable Finance Package is thus a wide range of legislation who will benefit those stakeholders whose behavior will support or not achieving the overall EU Green Deal objective. First of all, citizens who trust their money to the financial industry and thus can also be called investors. They will have more information at hand to take decisions and thus have the ability to reorient their investments or savings towards more sustainable technologies and businesses, or just step away from those technologies and businesses who have an adverse impact on the environment and society. Lastly, businesses themselves, who will have easier access to funding if they share transparent information in line with the EU's legislative package. Thus, the EU finance package is an essential part of the European Green Deal, which intends to reorient of investments towards sustainable technologies and businesses, as major public and private investment is needed to make our system more sustainable. In the end, it ensures the chances of Europe being climate neutral by 2050. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Sustainable Finance web series. Make sure to listen to the next one on the EU taxonomy. Goodbye.